Thank you, Priscilla Alvarez. So joining me now, Jamil Jaffer. He's the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute at George Mason University. Jamil, thank you so much for being with us. And you've said that you found it concerning that the president said that the 3 objects shot down last weekend were likely private company balloons meant for recreational or research purposes. Why does that concern you?
Well, Krista, I do worry that the president, will be mocked for shooting down these targets if they were just private balloons or, projects by research companies or the like. And I think it's an unfair mocking. I think that, look, we were under significant pressure to make sure our airspace was safe. The Chinese spy balloon had to be taken down as it was. Perhaps it took too long. There are debates about that. But at the end of the day, when we see these objects from our airspace, the right thing for the U.S. government to do is to try and identify what they are. And if there's any threat to civil aviation or American national security or Canadian national security, to take action. That's what the president of the military did here. But I do worry that there's going to be some concern that, well, we took these shots, these balloons, and they weren't of the Chinese or Russian variety.
Yeah, and there's an amateur balloonist hobbyist group out in Illinois that says one of its balloons went missing in action around the same time in that same area of Alaska. They're not pointing any fingers yet, but they say, hey, one of our balloons is missing in action. It would be fascinating if that does indeed turn out to be one of the objects that was shot down, though. NORAD and the National Security Council aren't commenting on that right now. Jamil, President Biden says that he's called on his team to lay out new protocols to monitor objects in U.S. airspace. Do you agree that that's the answer here, that that's what he should be doing?
Well, look, I think having a plan and a plan in place for what we're going to do makes a lot of sense. But the bigger question is, why weren't we detecting these Chinese spy balloons long ago? Why were 3 allowed to come over to the Trump administration? Why did 1 fly during the Biden administration? Why are we only now finding out about it? Why haven't the American people been told about it if we were following this thing from Hainan Island all the way over Alaska through Canada, all the way to Montana before it came out? And ultimately, why hasn't Congress been informed? And why aren't we spending the money it takes to upgrade our radar systems and our missile defense systems to identify these things, differentiate between hobbyist balloons on one hand, Chinese spy balloons on the other, and take action on the right ones? That's a bigger question than the rules of engagement specifically, which the president, I think rightfully so, is going to set out and keep classified so our adversaries don't know what to evade.
When you listen to President Biden's remarks yesterday, he said he does not seek competition, or he doesn't seek another Cold War with China. He said that he expects to speak to President Xi. How do you think that this balloon shoot down, that first one, is going to affect U.S. relations with China?
Well, look, I think there's no question it's going to make relations with China tougher. I think the president needs to be realistic about the fact that while he may want competition and not conflict with China, China may very well be teeing up conflict. They're very aggressive against our friends and partners in Taiwan. They continue to send spy balloons and the like over our airspace. They have not demonstrated that they're a good actor in the international realm or at home, where they're oppressing and interning over 1 million Muslim Uyghurs. So the reality is, even though we may not want conflict with China, it may be in the offing. We need to be prepared for that and make clear to the Chinese we will not accept any of these incursions, whether it's against Taiwan or into the United States.
Jamil, quickly before we go, I'd just love to get your thoughts on Ukraine. President Zelensky this morning pleading for more weapons, more ammunition as the war with Russia enters a second year. What more could world leaders do? What more would you like to see from world leaders?
Well, look, to be honest with you, Kristen, we should have provided tanks much earlier in this conflict. They want jet fighters. They want more long-range missiles. We should provide those. We should give Ukraine what it takes to win this war, not what it takes to fight to a stalemate. That stalemate is only bad for civilians and ultimately bad for all of us who have to pay for the cost of rebuilding Ukraine. The right thing to do is to back a strong force in Ukraine to win.
Jamil, you covered a lot of ground for us very quickly. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kristen.